So today's video is something different. I want to talk about RAW. So the reason why I want to talk about RAW is because I've been using it on this camera that you're seeing me shoot on. I use it for my photos. I've posted some things on Instagram and on Twitter too. And I also want to talk about it because some smartphones have it, some smartphones don't. You can download apps for some smartphones are compatible, some aren't. So the reason why I really want to talk about this is for those people that want to get way more quality photos than what they're taking. And the other reason for this is just because some photos turn out to be good and some photos turn out to be bad, and then you lose some of the bad photos that could potentially be good. So for each brand, RAW photos are different. The reason for this is because I know with Nikon, they have NEF. With Canon, I think they do the DNG. And then there's different ones for each brand. Now, the reason for this is just because it's brand related. That's really all it is. Now, what is RAW for real? So RAW is a file format that captures all image data recorded by the sensor when you take a photo, which means that the sensor is however the camera gets in what you're seeing right now is being taken from the lens, like let's say that little glass piece or whatever behind the glass piece, that little camera part taken into it, and it's being taken by the lens, and it's being taken by the lens, being brought in, capturing everything that you're seeing right here, captures my face, brings it into the sensor, which then compiles the data, like it downloads the information and brings it into a certain format. So when shooting in a format like JPEG, information is compressed and lost. So you can lose some of the quality, you can lose some of the information. So if you're trying to make green, let's say you have green in the background, or even this pink in the background behind me that you can see over here. So let's say you're taking that pink and you're enhancing that pink. So then what's happening is that pink can become a different color than what it actually is if you try to just turn up the enhancement of the pink in terms of just vibrancy. It could change more than just the pink part of the image. Now, you could also lose a little bit of the quality of the image just because of the way it works. Okay, so just because of the way it works, you could also lose a little bit of the image. And if you want to correct a problem, let's say you're taking a photo outside of, let's say you're using the iPhone, you're taking a photo outside of the sky, and you want to capture a certain spot of the image. Let's say you're even taking a photo of someone, a portrait photo of someone, and you just take it in regular, not even in portrait. The back of the image could get a little bit blown out maybe, and you want to tone that down. So what you would do is you'd open up a photo editing app, maybe you try to tone down the sky of the image, but instead of just toning down the sky of the image, you get to make everything a lot less, and then you have to color around that part of the sky, and then even then that won't even work. So what RAW allows you to do is it allows you to take that part of the image, specifically take it out and edit it. I mean, don't really take it out of the image specifically, but like you're able to take it and you're able to block it. You're able to edit a specific spot of the image. Now, the good thing is tons of cameras shoot in RAW. So if you want to know if your camera shoots in RAW, either go online or look up on your manual for your camera and see if it can shoot RAW. And then it'll tell you how to enable RAW. So, advantages of shooting RAW. So let's list out all the advantages. So one is get the highest level of quality. So this is one of the biggest benefits. When you do shoot in RAW, you record again all the data from the sensor. So you get the highest quality file, which means that, of course, the RAW photo, instead of it being, let's say your JPEG comes out to like 10 megabytes, the RAW can come to 15 to 20 megabytes possibly. And the difference is when you shoot in JPEG, the camera does its own processing, so it automatically takes like the green of the image or the blue of the image, and if it's and it could make it too vibrant. Like sometimes the iPhone camera, Samsung, even LG, and all the other cameras, like on the phone specifically, they can take an image and they can literally make the colors too vibrant. So it could be too much of the orange in the color in the photo, or too much of the yellow in the photo, and you want to be able to change it yourself. So you're able to do processing yourself. So it's not as smart as your brain, so you're able to do everything yourself as your brain wants to see stuff. So you can make the decisions and make the photo look how you want to look and get better results. So you can, number 2, record the level of brightness greater. So record greater levels of brightness. So level of brightness are a step of number from the black to the white in an image. So how I first learned how to take photos, I learned how to edit them in black and white mostly. So I was able to see a difference between, like, if you get from a gray to a white in JPEG, there are 256 levels of brightness, and in RAW they record 4,096 to 16,384 levels between. So how this works is it's described in terms of bit. JPEG captures 8-bit and RAW is either 12, 14, and that's what a bit business really means. So this effect has on your image is huge. There's additional steps of brightness as you make more adjustments. So you can do exposure, blacks, fill light, recovery, contrast, brightness, image up without significant reduction of quality because there's more levels to work with. So again, as I said, if you're taking the photo and the background is a sky and it's way too overblown, let's say it's a cloudier day, it's way too overblown, you can immediately tone down specific spots of the image. Like if you took your photo into Photoshop and you cut out the sky, it would basically be just blurring that brightness of the sky, and it's easier to avoid or correct posterization in images. Posterization is the banding that you often see in bright skies when you take pictures, so it's the way too over bright skies that you see in pictures. And then there's number 3. Easily correct dramatically over or underexposed images. Obviously, you do want to get the best exposure in your camera, but sometimes with things moving fast, especially with weddings, you get maybe too high or too low of the exposure. So let's say you can't, so some cameras, they have a little slider and it allows you to see the specific spots of the image and see if it's overexposed or underexposed. So you're not going to go and just immediately, you can't just go like on a phone and tap and then click real fast. On a camera, you're going to go and you're going to have to slide it, make sure it works. And not everybody wants to stand there for like 5 minutes. Maybe it can take you 30 seconds to adjust the image to the way you want, and that can be bad. So you can wind up with dramatically under or overexposed images, like again the sky. I'm going to use that example throughout the whole thing. And with RAW, you have additional information in the file. So instead of just having like one area of information where you have like everything brightness, you have the brightness of the sky, the brightness of your face, the brightness of this area, the brightness of that area, the brightness of like your body. There's differences to the brightness now. And you can recover more blown highlights and clip shadows, which means you can tone down at specific spots. You can tone down the specific spot, which is the sky, clouds, whatever else like that. Now you can also easily adjust white balance. So when you shoot in JPEG, which is the standard format, white balance is applied to the image. So you're automatically forced to stick with, let's say the area around you is more of an orange color, and you don't want to see that orange color. So the camera tries its best to focus out that orange color and change it to the best white balance that you should get. But maybe the white balance comes out to still being a little bit orange. So with RAW, the white balance is recorded, but you have more data, so it is easily able to be adjusted. And it allows you to, instead of your image being just that little bit of orange, you can tone it down to making it look more of the whitish, of the cool color. Instead of it being the warm color, you can tune it down and it can look better for you. So I've done this multiple times in images. I actually have toned down the white balance in my images multiple times. So this is one of the things that you definitely should think about, because it's just an awesome thing, being able to choose your own white balance. And you can also get better detail. Again, when shooting RAW, you have access to sharpening the noise and algorithms in the program like Lightroom. They're way more powerful than those found in your camera. Sharpening these noise algorithms are always improving, so in the future you'll be able to revisit your RAW file and take advantage of these improvements. So, I'm a little bit confused when I read this online myself. So, when you're doing sharpening and noise, let's say you're taking more of a low light shot and you get a little bit of that graininess to it. So what you'll be able to do with that graininess is you'll be able to lower that as much as you want to until the image looks like it's just a bad quality image, and you'll be able to revisit it later. And if the sharpening becomes better or the noise becomes better, the algorithms, meaning you'll be able to take it and put it down more without ruining the quality of your image. And with the sharpening of the image, let's say some lines, let's say around my face, these lines, they don't look that good. This will allow you to enhance these areas where the sharpening isn't as good and make it look better. So, number 6, enjoy the non-destructive editing. So when you make adjustments to RAW file, you're not actually doing anything to the original data. So what you're doing is creating a set of instructions for how the JPEG or TI or however another format you're going to do it should be saved. The awesomeness of this is that you never have to worry about ruining an image, accidentally saving over, or being unable to go back and make changes. So with almost every single video editor or photo editor, you can always go back and start over. JPEG files lose quality every time you open them, make adjustments, and save again. And it is known as what is called as a lossy file format. So if you're making a JPEG edit, make sure to duplicate the image and save the new version if you don't want to lose quality, which can be a hassle. So make sure to save a new version as a new version, not as the same photo. So don't overwrite your photo. What this means is if you're going into your, if you're going in and you're changing down the white balance a little bit in your image of a JPEG, and you save that, you basically click save. It'll save over what you saved already, so you're not able to go back to it. It's not saved as a certain edit in the photo. Like if I go to Lightroom and I edit my RAW files, wherever I'm going to edit them, I'm able to go back between what I edited, and if I don't want that light balance anymore, I can either turn it back up or turn it down some more, or I can go back and cancel it out depending on if the program saves every single edit as its own little piece. But you're able to go back and put it back up and down, and you're not going to lose any of the quality. So you can, number 7, if you're looking to print your photos as a digital print, then it'll get better, it'll get just better printing. So because of the finer gradation of tones and colors, you'll get better prints from RAW files, meaning you'll get beautiful prints already. So, but you just won't look as good. So if you do a RAW file, you'll get a lot more quality to that image. You'll be able to edit parts you want, get them to look better without having that weird lines to it, weird stuff. So I'm looking at my monitor that I'm using to make sure that I can see myself correctly. And I'm seeing, like, when I go like this, I see a little bit of a banding, so I see some lines coming through. But you may see those if you're going to print JPEGs, maybe you'll see a little bit of those lines. If you do RAW, you'll be able to take out those lines before you print it. This one is a little bit of a different story to some people, but number 8, select color space on output. So color space is a bit of a complex topic, but here's a quick tip. With the RAW, you can choose from any color space when you are exporting, so you can adjust depending on the situation. Is the image going on the web? Then output in the sRGB color space to ensure maximum compatibility among web browsers. So Google Chrome can have one look to it. It can look one look to something, and to Adobe RGB or ProPhoto. Safari can have another look to it. And Firefox can have another look. With this, sRGB allows the best compatibility to make it look practically identical to each other on every web browser. Save it in the common RGB 1998 color space. And if you want the widest color space possible, use ProPhoto RGB. So these are just 3 different color spaces that work best for different situations. And when you're shooting RAW, you can export a single image in multiple spaces, which is sweet. So you're not stuck to one little color space. So it is easier to work through large batches of images. So number 9, have an efficient workflow. It is easier to work through large batches of images when you're using a workflow-centric program like Lightroom or Aperture. So they're designed to easily process groups of raw images. Photoshop is not meant for that kind of thing. It's built to handle one image at a time, because just the way it works. So in order to take a full advantage of Lightroom and Aperture, you should be shooting raw. So basically what this means is if you have an image, you can easily press like Control-A, Command-A, whatever operating system you're using, and you can easily, let's say all the images were taken in the same spot. And instead of you going through each image and going up or down to each image, and you know that it was taken within, let's say, 5 minutes, altogether you have 100 shots within 5 minutes. You're able to go to that image, to the first image, let's say maybe the middle image, whatever one you want to group your images on based off of. You can easily tone down, press Control-A, tone down each one of the images' brightness maybe, or maybe even the exposure, maybe like the white's too much in the face, maybe the face doesn't look as good, and you're able to go through, tone it down, and each image will be edited the same exact way, and then you won't have to worry about editing out each single image like you would have to in Photoshop or any other program that just is one basic image editor. So that is a great reason why you definitely should be shooting in RAW, if you're able to do it. Now, number 10, it's the Pro option. Professionals should be providing their clients with the highest quality possible. So if you're someone who runs with different types of photos, or you're at least starting to, so it is the professional option, which means that you're getting the highest quality possible. Instead of going through and saying, well, you can put this on your website. Here you go. You can put this photo on your website. But it's going to look like trash if you put it over above a certain size. With RAW, if you put it above that certain size, it may not look like trash because your camera can handle it. So it's basically taking it as if you just shot it out of your camera the way you wanted it to, and you're able to give it the highest quality possible. So your camera can go, let's say you can go up to 32 inches before your camera's photo stops working. Maybe you shot in a JPEG will ruin it, and maybe the JPEG will only work if you go up to 16 inches. So with this RAW, it'll allow you to edit it, then go up to that 32 inches before it gets destroyed. So that's another thing. So there are downsides and solutions to this. So let's talk about the downsides, disadvantages to RAW files, and why maybe you don't want to shoot with it. So let's talk about these disadvantages. So they need to be processed. A common argument against shooting RAW is that the file needs to be processed, which means it takes more time to shoot RAW than JPEG, which I can tell. On my camera, what happens is I hear the click of the sensor opening up and closing, whatever, taking the photo, and then maybe like 3 seconds later, I hear it close again, and everything is processed. Now, when I take a JPEG, I can go click, and it'll work within 1 second. Again, JPEG takes like click, or RAW takes that, and JPEG goes click, and it's faster. So if you don't do any processing to your JPEGs, that might be true for real. And most photographers do processing to their JPEG, so the argument is getting flimsy, but still, it is faster. So for real though, if you really wanted, you can shoot RAW plus JPEG simultaneously, because most image photo takers do the same thing. But RAW does give you way more options and can be processed faster when you're editing them later on. But in terms of stuff, you can do both. If you don't care to edit your image, maybe you can upload it online. And if you want to actually edit it, maybe you can do both, so that you can at least first share it online, see what people think of the image. Maybe you just have to reshoot it instead of just having the raw photo there and saying, now I have to go through, I have to do this before I can share it online. No, now you have the raw, so if it's a good photo and people like it, you can edit it to make it the way you want it. But if it's a bad photo, you can just reshoot, don't have to edit it, because you already have the JPEG, you shared it online, people don't like it. Now, it definitely takes up a lot more space. So raw files have more uncompressed information, so they can be 2 to 3 times larger than JPEG files. So this is a concern for many shooters, since those who create a lot of images may have a lot more space. So over the past few years, the cost of hard drives have dropped. So consider a 3 terabyte hard drive, 4 terabyte hard drive could cost you $130. So let's think about this. If a large JPEG file is about 8 megabytes, you'll fit about 375,000 images on a 3 terabyte drive. So if a raw file is about 30 megabytes, you'll fit about 100,000 of those on the drive. So let's think about it this way. Let's say a 3 terabyte hard drive costs $129. So with the 8 megabyte JPEG, 375,000 images, you'll be getting 0.0003 per image. Whereas a raw, if you have 100,000 at 30 megabytes, you'll be getting 0.001 of an image. So you're going to be paying more per image. But if you're doing this, you're probably making money back anyway. But obviously you can store fewer raw files. But the number of images that you can cheaply store is so large for both formats that it's not really an issue. Like, not that many people care. It's not the worst thing in the world. And it's not a good place to put so many images on a single drive. Again, don't put all of your photographic eggs all in one basket. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. And memory cards are the same deal. They're constantly dropping in price. Now, there was a point when 2 gigabyte cards were $200. Now, you can even buy one that small, and 64 gigabytes is as cheap as $20. I know, I got my 64 gigabyte card that's in this camera right now for under $15 on Black Friday, and it goes right now for $20 online. That is ridiculously crazy. It's just ridiculous. So wow, like, I'm able to store definitely not 100,000 images, but I'm able to take over 100 images. Let's say I'm going to take 1,000 images in one day. I can do that on one 64 gig SD card, and it doesn't take up, and it's not going to fill up the SD card. Then I can transfer it to my computer and go on shooting some more. Like, it's crazy how little an SD card costs. Now, the next thing is slows down the camera. Again, raw files are larger than JPEGs, so they fill up the buffer of your cameras faster. The raw camera will still shoot the same frames per second, regardless of whether it's a raw or a JPEG, but you may have to wait for the camera to write to the memory card if the buffer fills up, meaning it'll take you longer for your camera to take those raw files and put them on your memory card versus JPEG. Let's say your camera can shoot 100 frames per second. You can be holding down I was using the 5D Mark II at CES. I was holding down the shutter. There was no RAW on there, just so it would shoot the fastest. And it was able to, in one split of a second, put all those images on there. When you shoot in RAW, it took a couple of seconds to be able to do that. Now, in a proprietary format is another bad idea for these cameras, because raw files are often recorded, as I mentioned way earlier, in a proprietary format, and which means that the camera manufacturers haven't officially disclosed how the raw data can be converted. So companies like Adobe either need a licensed software to decode the raw files or reverse engineer how the files should be converted. For cameras, like the raw file format looks like for Canon, .cr2, so it is .cr2, not .dmg. So, and then Nikon is .nef. Now, the problem here is that you can't be certain that in 5, 10, or 20 years you'll be able to easily open that RAW file if you don't have the proper software to decode it. Now, a new opening source RAW format has been developed in order to overcome this obstacle. It was developed by Adobe and is known as DNG, Digital Negative. So using a program like Lightroom, you can convert a proprietary RAW file into an open source DNG format. It is an extra step, but if you want to ensure the files are readable into the far future, definitely do it. And already the camera, the Leica M9 and probably some Hasselblad, I think, shoot in DNG format, so look for more camera manufacturers to open support for this format in the future. Now, these are just a few things about RAW, and this is just explaining RAW. So in tomorrow's video, I hope you did get this far. Please leave a like in tomorrow's video and subscribe too, because you don't want to miss tomorrow's video. Because in tomorrow's video, I will teach you how to shoot RAW files from your camera. Maybe let it be the digital camera you're using, or maybe even your cell phone. And I will teach you how to detect if your cell phone's able to shoot RAW files. So hit that subscribe button if you want to find out more. Hit the bell icon so you're notified of tomorrow's video of shooting RAW on your phone. Also, please leave this video a like if you did like me explaining RAW, and comment down below if you think RAW is ridiculous or if you think it's a cool thing and you want to learn more about it, because I will do a ton more videos on RAW. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.